Yeah, and hey, that's an easy setup there. It's really funny to see Mars get ignored as much as he kind of has. And ooh, that's a nice pick. That's a really nice pick. Even though you do have to deal with the dot coming in from the Sand King, and actually the intervals of damage coming in from the Sandstorm improved by I think zero point 0.1 seconds, zero point 0.3 down to zero point 0.2. So that refraction's going to tick away a little bit faster here, but this is also feeling very infamous. Now you're going to have Lumiere playing on his own side of the map, locking you out. It's that area control that we always see the TA provide for these teams. And you have these cores that can just run in with you and assist you in killing that Roche. It's that fight that we always bring up with the TA that maybe 4 Zoomers aren't ready yet. Maybe Moo doesn't have the Blink Dagger. If he does, it's only a Blink Dagger. It's a very messy fight that I think 4 Zoomers now need to be very careful of. And they would love something that's just going to very easily run down the lanes. This is, I want to say, a little bit of a gambit pick, though, because as we've seen before, the TA has as many benefits as it does have downsides, and one of them is the core matchup. 4 Zoomers can very appropriately look for what is probably going to be a ranged hero that buys a Scotty and then causes issues for you. And at the same time, we've seen the Weaver Timbersaw lane before, and it's a very strong lane, but it also means that you do not have a very easy time making plays.
Yep.
And they run actually back for the Bloodseeker. Okay, that's a much different way. I don't know about the TA versus Bloodseeker matchup, but that Rupture is very obnoxious.
Yeah, it's going to be good against the Weaver. It's going to be good against the Timbersaw. Meanwhile, if your TA ever just tries to sort of pop the meld and sit there, you got a Bloodright that you can throw down on top of her. So that Bloodseeker, honestly, I think this kind of feels like an even better situation than the last 2 times we saw it picked up. And yeah, on the other side of things, as you mentioned, this Weaver pickup gives Infamous basically zero playmaking. I mean, really, where's the initiation? It's going to be Timbersaw chaining in or Death Prophet just popping Exorcism and floating towards you menacingly. And 4 Zoomers, I feel like in a lot of situations right now, if they don't want to fight, Infamous can't necessarily force them to.
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued by this Lifestealer ban. I guess
Hmm.
perhaps assuming that the Death Prophet could go as a 5 is like my knee-jerk reaction, and then it's going to be a TA mid is the only way I think Infamous could spin it if they do want to go for their back for the carry. At the same time, though, it does almost feel like it is going to be a Lumiere TA. It's just going to be a mid-Death Prophet, but I think that's where 4 Zoomers are covering their bases a little bit here. They don't want to get not necessarily counterpicked, but shot up in a lane situation that maybe Infamous don't want to go for. The Weaver and the Timbersaw are pretty easy to call here, but that's where there is deceptively still a little bit of movement. At the same time, if they wanted to, they could also make the Death Prophet go to the offlane and lane versus the Bloodseeker instead, and then send the Timber mid. But that's where Infamous won't have to make that call until 4 Zoomers pick up their own mid. And I think that's where if you're Gunner, typically you're gonna want to look at, I guess, Spirits, but that's where very strangely I think Infamous banning out both of the venomous heroes here, just afraid perhaps that maybe you see the Sand. I was gonna say the Sand King go mid, but I feel like that's just hard to say in this position because I feel like Viper and Veno are the last heroes that I feel like Gunner would play.
Yeah, I don't think that's really gonna happen. But yeah, the Sand King mid. What, the last time we saw Sand King mid, I think was all the way back at, I think Mini played it in TI quals. I don't think we've seen it
Hmm.
since. So it did work for Mini in that instance, but that's not exactly enough to really convince you to try it here. So 4 Zoomers obviously going to look quite a bit more conventional with this final pick, as Infamous do finally grab that Mars ET. So you were mentioning it had been ignored for so long here. The question is, where will they actually put it? Because they could run the Mars as a core, they could simply shift it into that 5 role and sort of keep the DP in that core position instead. So Infamous at least have options, and that is your hero that gives you that playmaking ability that the rest of the lineup really just did not have.
I'm just worried if they pick like Invoker.
Whoa.
Well,
Um,
that is very, very different. I'm
is
really
that
curious to
Gunner
see.
Lycan?
Yeah, it's
It
actually going to be
is.
Gunner Lycan. And, well, Lycan is actually one of the few heroes that has been very steadily getting speed. I don't want to say in this patch, but in the previous patch, he was almost like a sleeper pick, something that people ignored post TI and then never really got his feet back in the game, but is actually very good situationally versus the Death Prophet, where you have that in and out style where he's literally too fast for you to siphon and also too fast for you to catch up to. It's impossible for you to run over him. Of course, everything is also reversed whenever that Lycan true form is off the table. But a really interesting pick for Four Zoomers to go in their game one of elimination here. It's a very dangerous pick, and Infamous actually swap up their lanes. It is going to be the A Death Prophet. They do switch it up there, but that's where the Mars versus Lycan lot matchup, I feel like Alone's going to be pretty happy there. And you also have that Timbersaw TA kind of waiting around in the backline. I'm a little bit worried though. Do Four Zoomers have enough cores to go versus this Infamous lineup? Because you look at the Infamous cores, that's the patch. That's what people have been playing. That's what everybody is scared of. Where Four Zoomers have definitely taken this in their own route.
Well, no one's ever accused Four Zoomers of being boring, I suppose, as they come in with this, but I am interested to see. I would love a scenario where you have shapeshifted Lycan and a perhaps wolf-bitten Bloodseeker, if the wolf bite is even actually still in the game. Haven't seen Lycan in so long. Maybe it isn't, for all I know. Didn't really go looking for Lycan in the patch notes, but yeah, if that is still the case, then you could have a Bloodseeker sort of running at you with max move speed, really just trying to well, do some bad things to your backline. And we talked about how potentially dangerous this Bloodseeker could be to really half of the Infamous heroes in particular. So it'll be interesting to see if that is a play that Gunnar looks at, although where do you now fit it's actually not the Shard, it's the Scepter now, into your build if you're the Lycan, because you are playing that mid. Gunnar really feels like he's going to be looking for his own damage maybe first before he looks to pick up something like a Scepter.
Yeah, and that's also where is Costabili even going to be the best Wolfbite target? We'll have to see, because it definitely is kind of the end game for the Lycan, but really I'm more curious to see how Gunnar's actually going to play, especially versus the Death Prophet. And A has certainly been abandoned by his team. He's kind of hung out to dry here. He's going to be where Four Zoomers, I feel like, are going to get a lot of their gold, because not only is he playing versus a ton of magic burst damage, he's playing versus, I think, the two worst core matchups in the game for it, because you get ruptured, you're probably going to die. You're getting shapeshifted on, you're probably going to die. And that's where maybe we're going to see a little bit less coming out from him aside from just raw damage. And hey, you do have the exorcism. You are able to push onto those towers a lot better than a lot of these other fives, but it does feel like we might not see much from the Death Prophet. But in doing so, the rest of Infamous's lineup looks incredibly strong.
Yeah, and as you pointed out in the draft, you know, they really just have the epitome of what the meta has looked like. So that is going to be something that they can just fall back on. They know that they've got strong heroes. They know they've got strong combos. Might, again, still be maybe a little bit lacking in initiation outside of Alone, but, well, Alone now on the Mars mid instead of that potential maybe position 5 we were looking at earlier. That means that he is going to be really right in the middle of the action far more often.
Definitely so. And I think that's where, we'll see. It still is a toss-up. It's very surprising to me. And for Zoomers, they've certainly changed their minds on heroes as the tournament has gone on. And like Husky said yesterday, these are the good scrims. These are the opponents that you may not play against them in the DPC main season, but surely these are some of your best opponents to, I don't want to say try out the new stuff. Infamous are definitely deserving and commanding of much more respect than just that, but it does feel like Four Zoomers are on the playing field here. I just worry that a Gunnar not being on that active role. I mean, we saw what happened when he was put on Gyro. I won't highlight that game any more than it needs to be, but it does feel like whenever he is shifted to the side, this is more in that same vein of the LD as opposed to the Gyro, as in he does have tools to farm and he's going to be able to keep up there, but it is an interesting problem that I think Four Zoomers do have to fix. And as with their drafts again, a lot of that pressure is going to be on Moo. I just hope that he's going to be able to hold up to it.
Yeah, that does tend to be the case a lot with some of these maybe slightly more experimental drafts for Four Zoomers, is that you sort of look to Moo to be your guy who has to be more reliable. So, as we often sort of say as well, when that pressure's put on him, he answers the call far more often than not. And on the Sand King, I certainly believe he's going to have the tools to be that initiator, that sort of significant damage source that they might need in addition to the physical damage from the Lycan and the Bloodseeker.
Nope, definitely so. And honestly, his lane, We'll have to see. Z-Freak has certainly gotten better, especially at hitting that sticky bomb as opposed to day one techies, but I think that's where, unfortunately, the Lumiere should have a pretty free time. It's very hard to shut down this TA, and especially once he gets level 6, it's going to feel much more difficult for 4-Zoomers to play, I want to say, normal Dota, where they try to translate those tier 1s very early into those trades, and then you see what happens, but that's where I think at the same time, dealing with Infamous's aggression, it's how you kind of break Infamous. If you can slow down their first 15 minutes, it's where the team truly lies.
At least in the top lane, it looks like they have the means to do so, because this Timber, you really can't do a whole lot to him early on. Maybe if Husky gets a decay or two down and you throw the blood right under his feet, sure, but you're going to need a few more levels than that. Husky's almost certainly going to need the Tombstone to really try and make that play as well.
No, definitely, and it's a little bit more XP than I think Oscar is really waiting for, but once Slayton hits level 3, that's when we typically see the Weaver rotate out, and Slayton probably going to go for the bounty run in a few seconds here, yeah, as he Shikuchi's away, but honestly, it's all he really needs to do. Once he gets Oscar that XP, it's just the name of the game with Timbersaw. It's very simple for him to do this.
It's an interesting maneuver. Takes the long way around. I think he was just trying to maybe see if a courier was coming around that time, as we'll drop the ward. Sees the courier now, but a little bit too late. But that is nice. Well, okay. It was nice vision. It's gone now, because Husky... I mean, did he actually scout that, or was that just a guess based on the path?
I think that's a guess based on the path, but also Slayton has placed that ward, I want to say 7 or 8 times in their games. That is totally a prep thing, I think, from Husky. And Slayton has been a courier slayer because of that ward, but I think that's where Husky just knows who he's playing against.
There you go. The scouting report doing some work for Husky. And honestly, if he lets that ward stand, it's not the biggest deal if Slayton snipes out a courier or two, but you really do want this Bloodseeker to not have to encounter any issues, especially going up against Oscar on the Timber. You're not going to be able to maybe supplement a lack of farm with any early kills in this lane, so a little bit is going to count there as they try to establish control over that lane. And really, ET across the board, we're about 4 minutes in, haven't really seen that much in the way of aggression. Neither side really presenting any sort of massive openings so far.
No, and very simply, I think it's where both sides kind of lack those early tools. Infamous definitely hit a spike whenever they get their ultimates, where I think 4-Zoomers are a very item-dependent team. Maybe the Rupture is going to change a little bit for Costabile. We saw him get very active whenever he had that spell, especially in the mid lane, but before that point, nobody really has the damage. Everybody is very slow build-up. I think that's where it's going to be up to Infamous to really make the first move once they get that breaking point, but I think that's also where 4-Zoomers need to be very careful with how they tread here. And Moo, he's gone for the Tranquil Boots that we've seen the Sand Kings go for pretty much every single time, but yeah, mid, there's your arena.
The gunner,
they break the silence.
Damage. Nope. Husky, very timely TP. Gets in, drops the heal. And, well, that was cutting it pretty damn close. Husky, really, if he takes another second to get in, I don't know if he saves the day, but big play for Gunner to survive there. Now, the sort of difference in experience is not going to be maybe as pressing, because alone, cool, he hit level 6 first, but the arena doesn't get the kill. Now he has to go all the way back to base. By the time he returns mid, Gunner's going to be pretty much up to his own level 6.
Yeah, and I think that's where dealing with their own aggression is going to be very important. I don't know how we're going to see Gunner actually make his way onto the map. Of course, once he has the Helm of the Dominator, that's a fantastic timing for him to play around, but it's also where, in the same vein as his Lone Druid, he's going to be taking a little bit more of the jungle, especially away from Costabile, and I think that's where building himself up is going to be a much larger focus of his game plan. As it is when he is on that LD. I just wonder if it's going to be nearly as effective, because of course that LD, it's got a 100% win rate. He never loses with that hero, so I wonder if the Lycan is going to be that second option that 4-Zoomers look for. And hey, if it looks good, you know they're going to pick it again.
Yeah, they would love that right now. Win with the Lycan, put that pressure on, make Infamous think, do we have to ban that? Because then, yeah, if you ban that and you ban the LD, then
something gets through.
Yeah, you let something big in, so that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. That's going to require Gunner to actually, you know, just
do something.
Yeah, it would be nice, you know, before we talk about, you know, oh, they have to ban it now. Let's see if Gunnar actually successfully helps his team win, which, I mean, so far he's not doing too poorly. 39 last hits on the board, has not really gotten the chance to maneuver in the slightest. Is up in the top lane. We see the move from Alone, but he actually missed with the spear stun. So Costabile, he's not in a great spot, but he is still fighting his way out of this. Can he actually get out from under Sladen, though? Looks like the answer is yes, is Sea Freak. Okay. Throws in the bomb, jumps in after it, as Alone will die. Oscar should be able to walk away at this point, but now Sladen kind of stuck in no man's land a little bit here. He is sitting on a full-up wand, so don't think they can catch him, but really that's not the point. At this point, 4 Zoomers are able to draw first blood in a situation where Costabile honestly probably should have been dead. I think if that spear connects, they get the kill.
Nope, definitely, and that's also where I think the silence landing on the Mars, the rebuke damage just came out really late. He wasn't able to get any hits off of the arena, and I think it's those tight kills that they miss out on. That's the second time Alone is shot and missed, and I think, honestly, it's where there are 2 plays to be made. You either look for the Sand King bottom that's creep cutting, or you try to kill their carry, and they go for the bigger play, I want to say, in that situation, but it's a costly mistake, and I wonder if Alone is actually going to finish his phase boots now, or instead, we're going to see him just barrel towards that Blink Dagger timing, because the plays do need to be made. Infamous needs space, Lumiere needs time. I think that's where we could feel the Lycan getting on the aggressive maybe a little bit more here. But this bottom lane is also quite a big problem that 4 Zoomers have to deal with. Breaking into the Lumiere jungle, it's an almost annoying task that they're going to have to go for. But maybe that's where Gunnar is going to provide enough push to actually get this tower down. Does need to be careful, though, because Lumiere is certainly capable of killing creeps with his side blades. I wonder if Lumiere decides to stay or just trade his tower, though. And the trade has been made.
Okay. He's just going to get out of there. So that tower should be sacrificed, or maybe not. There was
Ooh.
a TP there.
Oh, no.
Well, that's a problem. TP was coming in. It was Oscar trying to get over. I believe Moo and Costabile, they were able to cancel that TP, get the kill, deny their tower. And now the Bloodseekers come and bot. So this, it was supposed to just be a pretty straightforward trade for Infamous. Now it could turn into something quite a bit worse for them if they really just lose this objective, and Slade doesn't have backup. But in the middle lane, okay, if there's going to be a build-up bot, we'll go in mid. Z-Freak was just trying to sap some experience. Instead, he's going to get picked off.
No, that's honestly very unfortunate. I don't know where Oscar literally did his TP, if it was under tower or if he got kited out there, but that's a really sad movement because Infamous were not ready to give up this tower. They were going to stick the Timbersaw in front of it, and that would have been a big roadblock for 4 Zoomers. Instead, it just feels very clean from them, like almost too clean from them. And sure, you do lose Z-Freak, but that's a lone supplemental kill. And okay, he doesn't finish the phase boots. He decides that his Blink Dagger timing is going to be a little bit too slow if he does decide to go for that item, and I very much agree, but it just means that now you're not going to be doing that much damage on the Mars. You might need to rely on your teammates a little bit more here, and I think that's where him and Oscar really need to be attached at the hip. They really need to find their moments together, because if they do split off a little bit too much, and it's something that Oscar does like to do, but if he falls into that trap, I don't think we can see too many more arenas where we aren't immediately getting something out of them.
Meanwhile, 4 Zoomers looking to maybe solve the issue that we were talking about a little bit with Gunnar on heroes like the Lycan and the LD sort of taking up more space in the jungle. Well, the solution to that problem is just take your opponent's jungle. He is operating here in the south side. No one's really come to try and punish him. So if he is allowed to get away with that long term, then okay. All the cores on 4 Zoomers are going to be able to find what they need. You take a look at their net worths. Outside of Moo, they're looking, ooh boy, pretty good. That's not looking good, though. That is a bit of a whip on the ult. Costabile now comes in, dropping the Rupture onto Sladen. So your Weaver, he was able to time lapse, but he can't Shikuchi away. He would just take too much damage. Your Bloodseeker gets a kill, and once again, Alone, it is rough. I think this is now, what, 1 out of maybe 4 or 5 of his plays have worked out, so you still need to have him attempt it. It's just that hit rate's got to go up quite a bit in the near future.
And now, do they have enough here for Lumiere? They found the angle.
Here's the Burrow. Here's the Blast Off. They've got the Epi, and this TP is optimistic at best. Lumiere is not going to make it out, and well, that is just a straight kill onto your TA all alone, and Infamous are now going to try to put together some sort of counter, and if they could get onto the Bloodseeker, this would be big. There's going to be your Spear stun, and they should be able to get this. Yeah, Affliction Actually steals it. May have wanted to hand that over to Alone, but they needed the kill. They get the kill.
Hey, and now A has boots, so you know there is a certain speed that I think A wants to maybe ramp up, but it's those pickoffs that are actually going to matter quite a lot for Infamous here. A's been hovering around the mid lane trying to look for an opportunity to actually use the exorcism, but I can also respect them waiting for the correct moment here, not just blowing it and then immediately getting shoved off of the wave. And it's something that I think Mu can actually very likely do, and that's where he just got his Blink Dagger finished. It needs to fly out to him. He doesn't have it in his hands right now, but if he did have it in, actually, I think he, yeah, microed his courier to the right tower, so they need to be so careful here. Oh, Sladen.
Oscar, meanwhile, is getting taken down in the bottom lane, so they're not going to have their Timbersaw for support in this fight. As the fight will now break out, they are going to try and give it a go. Mu is very low on health, though, and yeah, Affliction's able to get in there for the final bit of damage to get the kill, but now they need to be careful. They pulled back a little bit, but A is just really going to... Okay, he's going to lay out for it. He got the second kill onto Husky. It will cost him his life, but the cores sort of back away once they realize... Our Timbersaw got picked off elsewhere on the map. Those heroes who took him down may now be on their way mid, so they will cut their losses, but at least they turn that into a relatively solid exchange. It's just... Oh, 4 Zoomers were able to sort of cut them off earlier on in that bottom lane.
Yeah, and that is the only problem I want to say about Mu's build. He's not very durable. He is just doing the double null Blink Dagger, the same build we saw him do the other day. But at the same time, it's space for your cores. It's time bought. I think killing Oscar is very important. We've seen how just a few deaths on the Timbersaw can really slow down his game plan and kind of shove him to the side, where the hero has a very linear power spike. If you can stop him at any point, especially early on, the hero's damage just doesn't feel quite as nice. And that's also where this isn't the perfect Timbersaw game. I think that's where, in the very least, when it comes to these core matchups, he is going to struggle to get that damage out. And there's another smoke play. They have the Epi. If they see Lumiere walk up this wave, Lumiere feels like something's going on, though, and I think maybe caught a glimpse of Z-Freak there on the minimap. Yeah, so he will just walk away, but narrowly escaped. But their support, this is a double wrap.
Yep, there's going to be the arena into the spear stun. Z-Freak is not, well, the most valuable hero in the world, but you break up that smoke attempt and you get yourself a kill, and it's another play for Alone. So this Mars sort of starting to feel himself. If you can find pickoffs like this, then the push for the Blink Dagger, sort of leaving the boots or now the armlet behind, it's not going to feel as bad because you're still finding the pickoffs. Your farming rate is going to be still okay. So just need to continue making plays like that. Basically every time the arena is online, they need to go looking for something. In the meantime, for 4 Zoomers, well, we've kind of seen their aggression ET really dip down. They are focused pretty heavily on trying to find these items. Gunner is getting close to that Helm of the Overlord. And meanwhile, for the Bloodseeker, who wants the BKB, if Kasablé can get that, then there is not a whole lot to be done against him unless they just trap him up in the fight and get straight physical damage onto him.
No, it is going to feel like a little bit of a struggle here, and like the smoke up, this isn't with, I think, any particular item timing except for the Helm of the Overlord, and A cannot take this fight. I think this might be your run away, let the Death Prophet die, but that's also where Gunner doesn't have a centaur. He actually can't get up to the chase. Wow, that is a really clean exit here, but I do like this play. Immediately into the Roche, pop the tombstone down, force this instead.
You see Lumiere hanging out nearby. He really should know what's going down. The problem is, getting in here is not going to be easy. You see the proximity mines now getting set up as well. Alone is going to make the jump, though. Does get off that arena into the spear. Can they kill anyone, though? No, but they've slowed the Roche attempt, but Gunner, he wants it. He really does just want to get in there and grab this Aegis, and if Infamous don't commit fully, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop it. They are getting closer and closer, though. He is going to pop that ult. Now they push into the pit. Lumiere's actually going to take the Aegis, and now this fight gets complicated. 4 Zoomers, what can they do? They've got A isolated on the other side. They're trying to bring down Oscar as well, but they just don't have the damage right now. Z-Freak actually TP's away. That leaves Mu sort of in the middle of it. He is going to go for the stun in onto that Death Prophet, but at this point they're just too broken up. But look at Kasablé pushing into the fight, gets the kill, re-ups on the health. He is just sprinting his way across the map. Now it's Infamous's turn to back away.
He is so incredibly fast. Everybody is so low. It's that epicenter that I think more or less landed alone onto the timber saw, but it's unfortunately there where Moo was also low himself. He wasn't able to find the control, and unfortunately, they didn't get that play. I think it was just a chakram clipping him on the backside. We didn't see that burrow strike coming through whenever the Roche went down, so Lumiere very casually gets to pick up the Aegis, but I'm very surprised at how easily Four Zoomers were actually able to walk out there. And I think that comes back to Alone really being the sole lockdown on his team with that arena. Afterwards, there really isn't a whole lot to keep Four Zoomers around, and it could have looked much worse. Now, is A fine? Doesn't look like it.
Not really, no. They will be able to take him down. Quick and easy kill there, defending their vision as... Okay, that tombstone's just going to sit there for a sec, but they maintain control of that high ground, but now... How do Infamous want to play this? It is fantastic that Lumiere stole that Aegis away, but you would rather, I guess, really just have him use this as a farming Aegis, because he still needs to finish off that Deso before I think they're really comfortable pushing in for another major fight.
No, and I think that's where Four Zoomers really had no business there. They've got the Ag Shard on Gunner now, so that's kind of cool. You know, another Wolf running down one of the waves every once in a while, but I think that's also where they have to be very cautious about the shapeshift timer. And he does lose his Ancient Black Dragon, which it does suck a little bit, but they do constantly need to be afraid, because after the fight, you saw Gunner was barely able to walk out that time. If they die even a little bit further out, then it could look very bad for them, but yeah.
Go in for it. This is where that nuke damage comes into play, because Oscar, he's just not survivable as they take him down. Okay. That is pretty fantastic. That's even through the barrier from the hood, so a nice play onto one of the tankier heroes on the map. Now can they turn this into anything else? They would love the push onto this tier 1 tower, but Alone is here. Sladen's in position as well. Do they want the fight, though? Alone is sort of shifting away. I think he realizes just how many heroes are coming, but Moo not going to give him the chance to really make that decision. They'll jump onto Sladen, gets the time-lapse off, but that's a time-lapse into the Rupture, so Sladen, he is straight dead. They get the tower anyway. And now, watch out, Four Zoomers are barreling their way down mid, and I don't think Infamous really showed enough respect to that push the first time around. This time they may just want to let it go.
And it does feel like they kind of need to let it go, or at least let the chip kind of happen here, but it's also where I don't think they want to start a large-scale fight just yet. They're coming up on a lot of their items here. Lumiere did just finish off the Deso, so that could be a reason for Infamous perhaps to find a smoke, but I also think that's where Infamous are not really giving up the bag. They're instead waiting for their opportunity here with a smoke of themselves to then find, I want to say, a backline target, but Four Zoomers are kind of staying here in the dark. They don't have any observer wards placed, so this is a little bit scary, but I guess they feel confident enough on the high ground here. Husky's waiting to place his obs until after a fight breaks down. He doesn't want to use it, but it's where they're just getting scouted by all these TA traps. Infamous know exactly where they are.
Also loved that play from Lumiere as well. He just pops the refraction and goes for a stroll through the jungle. I think it was 3 or 4 mines that he runs into, but doesn't take any damage from. So in the middle of a team fight, maybe you don't want to use your refraction charges for that, but just a casual way to sort of clear things out. And as you said, ET, without the vision in that area, there's no punishment for the TA making that move. So Lumière's just going to try and clear things out. 50 seconds on the Aegis, though. So if you're Four Zoomers, you can really just afford to kind of keep going as you are right now. Wait for that, oh god, for that Aegis to go away. Z-Freak, though, may not have that luxury. He's just going to get pinned down and finished off pretty easily. Now, do they want this fight? I hear the shapeshift going. Moo's going to burrow strike in, so they do want to give it a go. They get onto A first, able to take him down before the TP can complete, but Gunner, he wants more. He spotted out Oscar. Well, he spotted out Oscar, but I don't know if he's actually going to be able to keep up with him, as the Timber Chain will get him away. And, oh, wait, hold on. Oscar, that's an awkward spot to be in. He should be able to chain himself out again. But now maybe Gunner can keep up. Moo's coming in as well. He's got that Blink Burrow. There it is. It does get reflected by the Lotus, but it's going to do its job. Moo's even going to throw the ult out here just to make sure that they secure that kill. You know what? Probably for the best. Don't want to let the Timbersaw go after chasing him halfway across the map, but now Alone comes in, drops the arena into the spear. Can they keep Gunner alive? Moo is buying a lot of time with that stun. Lumiere actually just has to back away, but that means Alone and Sladen, they're just stuck in the middle here holding the bag, and yeah, they're going to get punished for it. That is very unfortunate. I mean, Alone, that's not a bad initiation. It's just they weren't really all on the same page.
Yeah, and I think
Uh-oh.
that's where oh yeah, Lumiere, he stuck around. Okay,
Why?
you are very, very dead, but they are very poor at getting into that tombstone. I think that's where maybe you need to let Sladen get into the fight a little bit sooner, just try and whittle it down. But for Zoomers also just kind of get away with that. I think the big mistake from Alone there is just he doesn't stun the SK. He instead spears onto Gunner, thinking they need the burst damage from the kill. But it's also where as soon as they realize the Bloodseeker is there, well, now Lumiere can't stick around because if he gets ruptured, he's surely dead. And okay, in hindsight, he dies anyway, but it's kind of an ugly turn of events. And four Zoomers are really starting to take up a lot of the map here. Gunner has surged forward, and look at him. He's really working fast on this AC. And once he has it, well, now all that damage coming in from Lumiere and Alone isn't really going to feel like very much.
Hmm. And I think as well, now that we're sort of looking at four Zoomers maybe taking a little bit more control of the map, this Shard really does help out at 15 minutes as opposed to 20 as A. Is he going to get himself out here? He's looking for the TPs. Z-Freak says, no, you're not getting away. They will be able to take him down, but yeah, this Shard, it helps them push so much better. Back on the old Shard timing, you were just sort of looking at it and thinking, that's neat, but how useful is it? But now, if you start taking fights like this, your lanes are already sort of pushing out that little bit more inherently compared to what Infamous can do unless they commit a hero to push it. And right now, they don't really have that luxury. Four Zoomers are just going to look for the Tier 2 tower top, and there's really no one here who can stop them. Alone is all the way up the lane trying to cut, but even if he cuts this wave, there's a full wave directly on the tower.
Yeah, and well, now if you're Infamous, is it time to split? Is it time to wait for your next item timings here? But I honestly think this TA can't really show her face in a fight. She'd love to have a Lincoln Sphere and a BKB, so that rupture is just immediately off of the table. But it's where I think Infamous are really one fight away from losing a lot of their map control. And as soon as they lose that map control, well, four Zoomers are already flooding around the pit. But now that you've got to deal with mines, you have to deal with vision. They're also just swapping which side they play on constantly and looking for the picks onto Infamous. And with how thin right now they are on the map, of course, Sladen is the easy target. He's going to be the one that maybe they look for the most. But it's very easy to find an Infamous hero split off from the rest of the group.
Sladen gonna be able to get himself out there, so just trying to get a little bit of vision while he can. Alone, meanwhile, does have the BKB completed. Good news for the Mars, but, well, overall, this is still a Mars that feels relatively poor, ET. Blink BKB is nice, but we were sort of mentioning this earlier on in the game. His damage output was going to be maybe a little bit necessary, but, well, if you've got Lumiere here, that's all the damage you need. Alone gets the stun, Lumiere gets the kill, Costable gets taken down, just as four Zoomers were going to attempt the smoke play. So they still smoke. They have to commit for it. They had already used it, but where do they go, and do they have the damage now with the Bloodseeker out? Is it going to run right into Oscar? This would be a huge kill for them to pick up. There's going to be the Burrow Strike into the Blast Off, into... Actually, not into the Epi. They will hold it. Didn't need it, but now they've got it available. Sladen and Alone may want to be careful, and yeah, Alone's just going to try to TP home.
Ooh. And a nice TP it is. They had the blink there getting disabled there. I think Sladen just popped new with one or two right clicks. Now A TP down here.
Yep,
This is a one-way.
He got the ward down before he died, at least. I don't think that's something four Zoomers will immediately deward. So you do get a little bit of vision on that front, but now that Bloodseeker kill, obviously still valuable, but a little bit less favorable trade-wise when they lose two heroes on their own side.
Yeah. Very slightly unfortunate, but now I think if you're Infamous, the name of the game is really going to be that next Roche. If they could somehow take this ward away from four Zoomers, get up on the cliff, well, then we could see an immediate shift. That second Aegis would be probably Infamous's next timing to try and honestly outright win the game, but it's also where four Zoomers kind of have a wall of net worth in between their opponents and Gunner. He's got a gem, he's got the full AC. He's a very problematic hero. The only thing he needs to be concerned about is that shapeshift timer. If he gets it forced out of him a little bit too soon, we could see an immediate turnaround. Because again, Infamous don't really have cooldowns. I guess it's hard to say that because they do have the Death Prophet, but when it comes to their initiation and the rest of their lineup, everybody else is playing really to a different beat. It does really feel like the Death Prophet is maybe a little bit alien here in the draft, but that's also where as soon as the Roche is up and four Zoomers will scout it out, That is the only objective that matters on the map, and one that Infamous are surprisingly straying quite far away from, and they gotta come kinda now. This guy is very quickly with the Howl.
Yeah, they've got the Hell, they've got the finished AC, so they are
Oh,
burning
no.
through it, and it's already too late. Roche below half HP, no one's even coming towards it, and that feels like maybe just a little bit too far on the fallback there from Infamous, because, oh, I was gonna say, they get the Aegis. Who doesn't have their shard? There we go. Husky's gonna pick one up here, and he'll eat that himself, because, yeah, pretty much all the cores had already picked theirs up, but now you've got yourselves 2 lives, you've got yourself a slightly upgraded Flesh Golem, so, I say slightly, I mean, that is a lot of time taken off the timer, so the Flesh Golem's going to be available quite a bit more often. It suddenly makes Husky more of an issue in these fights. We'll see if a fight actually breaks out, because right now, if you're Infamous, I don't know if you want to go into this, especially not around your own tier 2 tower mid. That doesn't seem like the best defensive position for them.
No, it definitely doesn't, but that's also where Infamous still need to find their farm, especially on alone, and I do love that he's going back for the Ag Shard. A lot of times it becomes a secondary thought, but I think he needs to be the lockdown in this game, as he really is the only lockdown, but I think it's also where really giving up that Roche, it's a fight they wanted. It's a fight that they almost needed. It just feels like they might be getting a little bit too relaxed here. They are getting quite a lot of farm, though, and yeah, they're hunting for Sladen. These are the heroes that they need to try and kill him. I know. Does he get the TP? Who's got a guess?
Well, guess is too late and in the wrong direction, unfortunately, so you do manage to get Sladen out of there, and these split plays are working out quite nicely for Infamous, buying them some time. Tier 1 tower just got taken down in the bottom lane by Oscar and Lumiere, so just dodge the fight, don't work yourself into that Aegis, and try and stall for as long as they can. It's not a bad plan, although Sladen, okay, still not going to get caught. That Blood Rite is off the mark, so the Weaver's really doing a lot here, throwing down the ward as well, so they are just trying to stall, but now Sladen might run into trouble. Who's going to hit him up? Z-Freak's coming in with the blast off, so it looks like that Weaver will finally be taken down, but he is creating a lot of space for the rest of Infamous.
Yeah, and, well, this Techies, I don't want to say it's figured out yet. I still feel like we're getting there, but the blast off, it's always been good. It still will be good. The shard makes it an actual spell, which feels fantastic, but finally, at the very least, they're getting some more damage on these towers, but honestly, with the creep waves getting cut in the fashion that they are, this is halting a little bit. It's definitely turned into the stalling game for Infamous, but it is undoubtedly working. They have to kind of fix their waves here, and a big pick would be getting this Timbersaw bottom, but it's also just such a far walk that I don't even think Zoomers are going to go for it. They want to push into these tier 2s. They want to get the tier 2 mid. They want to maybe force up to the high ground to get heroes back in the base, because unfortunately for Zoomers, without a Boots of Travel carrier on their team, and I'm surprised we don't see Moo, and I guess, okay, he is turning back for it right now in his build. It is very annoying. It's very obnoxious to deal with these heroes, and at the very least, I think they are going to get through backdoor in mid, but it does feel like right now they're not getting enough out of the map, even though Infamous have absolutely no right fighting them right now.
Yeah, the amount of time Infamous have been able to just stall this out without Zoomers trying to make a move to counter them is kind of astounding a little bit, but we do see Zoomers now smoking up. They are going to look to punish this split play. The first hero they're going to run into, though, is the Death Prophet, who really can afford to die here. This is not going to be that bad. Affliction will make them work for it with both the Yules and the Glimmer, but eventually he gets taken down. The question is, now that you have lost that DP, now that you know that the Zoomers heroes are sort of searching for you, do they back off of the split? Lumiere, at least, is going to TP away. Looks like Sladen is not, however. Moo, able to catch him out, has to commit the Epi for it, but they'll at least be able to stop the Weaver sort of annoying play up in that top lane.
Yeah, and if they're getting the rats, then it is still fine, but really the most troubling aspect is they're putting so many resources into really farming this Radiant side of the map that their own jungle isn't really getting farmed out all that much, and it does allow for breakaway plays from Lumiere, and Lumiere needs to be careful. Gunnar did just straight up see him there with the gem, but this is where the Tombstone's been placed. This is their 25-second window where really, Infamous can't do anything, and someone needs to start hitting it, and if Lumiere sticks a little bit too close to the fight, then very simply he gets stunned up by Moo, and well, here's your problem. How do you deal with the Tombstone? Did you draft enough to actually kill it? Because very hesitantly is Lumiere poking up to get 1 or 2 right clicks off, but he's terrified, and this is going to be a Rax on the Aegis timing out as well. Don't think there's anything they can do.
Yeah, that's the problem. Maybe you do have enough damage to take down that Tombstone if you get the TA in there for it, but you need to send your TA forward, and you're not really sure about your survivability when you do so. So Infamous just have to sort of sit back and watch that happen. That's a melee Rax taken. As you said, though, the Aegis timing out here, so Stable might want to be a little bit more careful, but I feel like for Zoomers, they didn't maybe get everything they wanted with that Aegis. I think they were looking for just a full-on high ground push, but they will eventually break through, and they're still set up here in this top lane to try and do some damage. That's here 3. Already getting hit pretty hard. There's the Tombstone again, so we have the same situation. What is the response? Infamous, they're looking for a wraparound play here, but they're going to get scouted out. Alone is really taking the wide angle, however, but I'm not really sure this is going to work. By the time he actually gets the arena down, they've already lost 2 heroes, both of whom will buy back, however, but Alone just retreats from his own arena. They don't get anything out of this, and well, in the meantime, their tier 3 went down, and 4 Zoomers really are just allowed to reset.
Yeah, and sure, for Zoomers, they need to fully retreat at the very least on Gunner, but 50 seconds, you've gotten over the difficult part of Lycan. You have that 20 talent, and yeah,
So
he's
really
doing it.
Yes, he does. That's a bot back Death Prophet too, so, well, A is going to go down, but Infamous are going to try to force this fight. They get a Spear Stun onto Moon. Nice play. Husky, though, able to heal him up. Lumiere doesn't care. Goes in, gets the right-click damage. However, over on the high ground, Oscar just gets melted. Stable is just too fast and hits too hard. The Bash is coming in to help out. And that is a nice play to kill off Moo. The problem is they have to sacrifice a lot to get it, and now Alone might be in some trouble, but there is going to be a buyback. Oscar wants into the engagement. They're going to try to get Gunner. He's looking to TP out. Not going to be able to complete it, however. They take Gunner down. It does cost them Alone and the buyback from the Timbersaw in the end, but they're just doing everything they can, ET, to hold the base, and technically speaking, it is working. They did not lose a second lane of Rax.
No, and this is going to be a little bit of farming time, I want to say, for Infamous to possibly reset, especially on the TA. I just don't know what Lumiere can really buy to change this game, though. And that's where, for Zoomers, definitely overextend. It was just a Death Prophet kill, resulted in your offlaner dying. A Gunner then feels like they're out of spells, so he walks up to the base and overextends, and the only reason he does die is because of the buyback on the Timbersaw, but they are still winning by throwing their bodies against their opponents, and I think that's where Infamous, they need to find that arena a little bit sooner. They need to get on top of these heroes before they get initiated on themselves, and that's where I think Alone has a nearly impossible job to do, because you're jumping into mines, you're jumping into a Tombstone. The setup is just too strong from 4 Zoomers once they get going, and I think that's where Infamous can no longer allow 4 Zoomers to just waltz up to the base. They need to get them in the walk. They need to get them before they are actually on the high ground, because I think otherwise we're going to see that same high ground push, and I don't think the items that Infamous are able to pick up in the meantime are really going to change all that much.
Yeah, it's increases in some of their power, but I don't know if anything's a real game changer for them in the next really couple of minutes here, but that'll depend on how much time they buy. You see Sladen immediately going back to work on that split push game. You've got Alone trying to push out the top lane as well, so if they can buy the same kind of time that they did the last time around before 4 Zoomers came looking for them, then maybe this is a different story, but you have to assume, yeah, 4 Zoomers are not going to give them that same amount of time. They're smoking up and looking for the play.
And this is very scary, especially if they lose Oscar. That is the really worst hero they could lose. And okay, maybe an even worse hero shows up. Lumiere would also be just as bad, but they need the stun, and I think Oscar, yeah, he's going to trade that out. Now he is surely dead with a buyback, so there goes your top Rax.
Well, Oscar, as you said, dead with no buyback available. They kind of need to, there we go, get some heroes into the base. They will do so, and yeah, they're going after the tower, excuse me, after the Rax. And Lumiere, he's here, that's good, but he can't really fully commit for this as, oh, Moo, he's faking it, waiting to see who comes forward. If they could bait Lumiere in and kill him off here, that could very well just be the end of it, but Lumiere is not going to take that bait, even if it means sacrificing the full top lane.
Yeah, and look at this. 4 Zoomers, now they are patient. Now they are forcing their opponents into an awful position. They're letting the Black Dragon do everything. It's just Black Dragon and Wolves. They're not giving that easy initiation onto Coast Stabile. Costa Rica is very tanky, but he also knows that his HP is a resource, and with it being gone, then maybe the push gets halted, but this is Infamous's, I think, last shot here. They need to find everything with this spear. They need to hope their play doesn't get stopped. And Gunnar, he's poking it, and now they see Lumiere. Now, does Gunnar ult right now, or does he hold it? No, he's just going to pop it.
Shapeshift going in, looking for Lumiere. He's able to blink himself out, though. The refraction's going to eat the damage, so he backs away, and now Gunnar, he's just got to go sprinting around looking for something. He does find Roche, though, getting into the pit. Aegis Cheese and an Ag's Blessing if they want to go for it, but they're not going to, just trying to fake their opponents out. Ooh, speaking of faking out, he just continues to do this, making me nervous. Pretty sure Moo won't fat finger that one and accidentally lose it, but it's happened before, and been very, very awkward when it does. But at this point, Infamous, I'm surprised actually that they were so sort of disciplined at this point, not getting themselves caught out. They were able to dodge that out quite nicely, although as I say that, they do throw a Rupture down, but Lumiere's just going to walk it off. But now Lumiere's not in the fight, so if they can catch up to anyone else, they might be able to find some kills here. The problem is they can't catch anyone right now. Infamous are just splitting up so well. Although, as I say that alone, you might want to be a little bit careful here. Moo burrows in the wrong direction. Now they'll miss with the blast off as well. That's very strange, as Alone should be able to walk away. The supports, though, may not be quite as fortunate. They are going to try and turn onto Husky, and okay, that is a quick and easy kill. Husky, though, quickly buying back. TPing onto the outpost. And I believe they should have eyes on Sladen here. The time-lapse, unfortunately, puts him right in front of all of those chasing heroes. So Sladen is down. No buyback for the Weaver at the moment. And now with the Exorcism sort of running out of time as well, I think Infamous just want to back off.
Yeah, somehow in a roundabout way with Forest Zoomers using the Shapeshift, using the Rupture early on, and Infamous dodging out those timings. Not only that, they kill the Undying. I feel like Forest Zoomers are the ones to probably claim the free Roche now because, well, they use the Arena, they use the Exorcism, they don't really have that much left in the tank. This is a very awkward tiptoe around this area, and I think it's large in part because everyone keeps getting dewarded because of how many gems there are in this game. I think both sides are just doing a really good job of keeping vision out of the hands of their opponents. I also don't think there are very many obs wards actually in stock here. I think there's only 2 wards placed on the entire map, and it just means everybody's kind of shooting in the dark. And because of that, Force Zoomers are actually too scared to go into the pit without all of their CDs, and they just barely have now come off cooldown. But again, this is just Force Zoomers playing incredibly cautious and maybe a little overly cautious. This is surely going to be a free Roche, but it's just troubling how slow it is to make that decision. I think that's where Force Zoomers were really struggling to make a decision because it was scary. Infamous are running around smoked in the dark during that entire time while we don't have our cooldowns, but now this is a free Roche. Now this is a Shape Bite, or rather Wolf Bite, that you're going to be able to give over to Costa Bela, who just finished his Scotty. So the problems are still numerous for Infamous, and yet again, you don't really have enough. Not that much has changed in the game, all things considered.
Well, yeah, as you said, it was a little bit strange seeing them so hesitant to just sort of pull the trigger on the Roche attempt, but now I don't think we're going to see that same sort of shyness from them. They've got Aegis, they've got Cheese, they've got the Wolf Bite, as you said, to just buff up that Bloodseeker. So I still don't think you just barrel your way through the bottom lane and dare Infamous to fight against you, but they are certainly going to look to do this. Yeah, they're going to poke at it. Alone, though, makes the move. That's the problem. The BKB was up on Gunnar, so well, there's your Arena down. He does have a Refresher Orb, so it can be back up, but first Arena is a whiff. Tier 3 tower was taken, and 4 Zoomers really did not sacrifice much of anything to get that play going for themselves.
No, but okay. The line is hold. This is a line that they cannot cross, though. If Infamous let them in their base, we know what it looks like, but it's also where 4 Zoomers, they have their creep waves in finally. Slade is trying to get the split push going, especially if he can finish off this Ags. That could be a turning point in the fight that's going to follow here, but it's also where it is still very awkward. 4 Zoomers are so close to winning. They don't want to throw it away. They don't want to go ultra late game. And this is honestly one of the longest games we've seen in the tournament so far in the new patch. And I think it's largely because you've got 2 melee cores on 4 Zoomers. Moo doesn't really provide the push either. They're solely based around their initiation. And there's the Wolf Bite. Here we go.
Throw down the Tombstone as well, so they're just going to go all in for this. Alone, though, nice play. Gets the spear. Gunnar dropped low. Gunnar taken down. did not get the chance to eat the cheese. This is actually turning into a disaster for Four Zoomers. Costabile is on the back line trying to take down Lumiere, but all of his backup is gone, and he's going to get bashed up and finished off. Four Zoomers, what have you done? This is going to go horribly. Costabile's just going to die a second time. They blew it. They absolutely blew it, ET, and Infamous, incredible showing there to win that fight. Alone gets the spear at the start with the BKB not really ready to be activated by the Lycan, and that just leads them into the rest of it. And Lumiere, I think the most important aspect of that was the fact that he doesn't panic when Costabile is on him. He knows he's not going to be killed off. Just absorbs the attention, and I mean, Infamous might just be back in this one off the back of that one team fight.
Yeah, and I'm really stumbling over my own words because, well, they dive in. Alone gets the perfect spear onto Gunner. Okay, fine. Gunner doesn't get his BKB off, needs to get soul rip, doesn't get soul rip. They were so far away. The response from Four Zoomers just felt way too slow, and in doing so, Gunner was the reason that you could be on the high ground. He had the gem, so when the gem drops, suddenly the rupture onto Lumiere, which should be Lumiere's death, or at least him being forced to blink away, ends up in Costabile being kited because he can't see the melded TA under his own racks, which then forces Husky forward to then die, to then get caught in the arena. It was just a catastrophe, a roller coaster of, I think, errors in that high ground push, and now we're even. The game is reset. We are back to square one here. I think Four Zoomers, that's their easy victory gone. Now we're in a very tight race.
Yeah, their chance to just close it out when they had all the cards in their own hand feels like it has passed. Unless Infamous just walk into this next fight blindfolded somehow, I don't really know. They have fought their way back into it. Still 2 racks down, so you always have that. If you do lose another fight, there are going to be some serious repercussions, but now ET, we're saying if they lose the next fight, as opposed to before when it was feeling more like when.
Yeah, and you also feel like before that point, Infamous were still playing, having to go for their buybacks. They didn't have all of the items that they were working for before. Now, everybody really has their buyback, aside from Oscar, who is just feeling, I guess, unkillable now, but even though he doesn't have the best stat line, it just means that you don't get that easy victory. Four Zoomers need to kill all of Infamous, and then they need to kill him again, and then they need to get out. And I think that really is the problem that Four Zoomers are now going to have to confront, is how do you get out? If you do get forced into these overextensions, we just need to see much more clean play, I think, coming from them. And this is an immediate shift in attitude. They are now 5-man standing on the high ground next to a ward, as opposed to really knocking on the gates of Infamous's base. And, well, we're back to the split push style that now is gonna work out. And, well, before, it didn't feel like any of the items that Infamous were picking up changed anything. Well, now, Lumiere has a nullifier. That's gonna be your difference maker. That's gonna be your entrance onto these Ghost Scepter supports. And then suddenly, you're not gonna have a Husky. You're not gonna have a Z-Freak. This game is very scary now.
And as we saw in that last fight, Four Zoomers have not quite eclipsed the point where your supports shift from necessary to luxury, right? They need the heal. They need the tombstone. Z-Freak still has to get blast off onto a couple of heroes for them to be able to take these fights comfortably, as opposed to that just being extra to sort of make the fight more definitive for them. So if those heroes can get picked off, then all of a sudden, yeah, this is not going to be comfortable for Four Zoomers. I think it's already starting to get uncomfortable for them, but really going to have to see how they play out this next fight, where and when they look to take the engagement, because now, well, now they're starting to play a little bit more wary, more cautious, and we already talked about items being picked up by Infamous. If they're given this much more time, they're going to get that next level of items going for themselves as well.
Yeah, and it's where if Four Zoomers are a little bit single target, and that's what spells like Burrow Strike and Rupture are, well, Sladen's got the eggs. Sladen's looking towards an Aeon Disc of his own, and you look over at Four Zoomer's side, I think the biggest item they've been able to pick up in the past few minutes is really just the Abyssal Blade on Costabile, but they're still not really playing with buybacks. They're not expecting Infamous to win the fight and then march up to their high ground. I just am worried with that mid-rack's gone. If Infamous take a fight and let's say they kill Costabile, the game could almost immediately be reverse swept, and that's the kind of terrifying fact of getting this late in Dota. You're so fast at taking these buildings that anyone can die.
God.
Costabile!
They got him. The meld bash from Lumiere starts off the fight. Mu is now going to try and channel out the ult. They'll look to turn around onto Affliction, but there's going to be that Aeon Disc coming in, keeping him alive. Teammates are flooding into the fight. They're trying to take down a very tanky Husky, but they will get through him pretty quickly. Lumiere secures the kill, but now Z-Freak, okay, nice blast-off play. Where's the follow-up? Mu comes in, big burrow strike. Slayton and Lumiere both dead. Buyback available on both. Slayton's going to pop his. Lumiere wants to hold it, though. I think that's going to be a bit of a reset on this fight, but Mu's got to be kind of careful. There's going to be the spear pinning him to the tree. Oscar waited to chain in so that that tree would still be there. And that allows them to find the kill, and now ET, now it gets nerve-wracking for Zoomers. They left the door open. Infamous are just barreling their way through, and maybe that wasn't the cleanest fight in the world, but you look at what 4 Zoomers lose on the other side, it is a bit more costly for them.
Yeah, and that's where Infamous, they don't know, they're expecting Costa to have buyback. They don't know that this could be a very wide opening for them to swing in, but it's also where if they lose the TA again, they lose. So they're not going to risk it. They're instead going to play for this 4th Roche, which is another interesting way to take this game. And there are still some facts true for 4 Zoomers. That Tombstone is still a problem. It's something that Infamous are never really good at, and that's why Mu gets such a clean reinitiation, because everyone's slowed up by the zombies. You don't have any BKBs, and Lumiere surely got killed after the fact, but I think that's where do you favor a certain team coming after the BKBs, after all the buybacks are spent? And Roche will be a little bit kind, only a minute and 20 seconds left on the timer. It's more than just instantly respawning, but it's also where now it's one spear away, one burrow strike away. All of the pressure is going to be on Moon alone, and whether or not they can provide for their team this late in the game, it's where the win conditions are going to present themselves for these teams.
Man, oh man. Look at the defensive items coming through as well. Alone just finished off his Aeon Disc. There's one up on Slayton now too, so well, if you can survive that first bit of burst from 4 Zoomers, then that opens a lot of doors for them. And I believe we saw in the last fight there was also one, yeah, there's one on the Death Prophet too, so you have to maybe work around the cooldowns on that disc a little bit, but 4 Zoomers aren't going to have that same sort of get in and instantly take out a hero potential that they had in a lot of the previous fights.
Yeah, and aside from, I think A's, these are all fresh Aeon Discs as well, and okay, A.
There's going to be the disc coming out. He's got a Yule Scepter to work with as well, so he can buy a lot of time. He just can't get very far. The Rupture is still sort of on him. And yeah, there's going to be the stun out from Mu. So they do get that one kill, but I think that's a hero that Infamous could maybe afford to lose. Unfortunately, it means that the DP's down with no buyback for a little while, but is that enough? Do 4 Zoomers feel confident enough to push further forward? Because Roche is respawning. It's back up now. Every single one of those goodies is available on Roshan as well, so at this point this fight could very well determine just who sort of takes, well, who takes the game, or at least who certainly swings momentum their way, because there's no real difference net worth-wise at the moment.
No, and really, this is that tightrope, and of course, 4 Zoomers are playing as if the Death Prophet has buyback. They're not really playing as if she's off the table just yet, because you have to respect your opponents in this type of game. You can't really afford to just go forward and say, oh, it's a 4v5, we automatically win. There are still steps that both these teams need to take, and they're not going to skip at this point because of how tight this is. I don't think we're going to see them just immediately surge forward, and really the only reason 4 Zoomers would go into the pit right now is if they saw an Infamous hero pushing in that bottom lane, but it's actually the Infamous side that's, well, pushing in the creep wave alone. It's why Gunnar sends a creep here, because they know as soon as this creep wave shows up here, they've got a big problem on their hands, and I think that's where the smoke up is very smart, but that's where Husky, he needs to find the vision. He only has one ward. Without it, I don't think they're going to feel confident enough to take this fight, and it's going to get placed. So now this is the engagement. Unfortunately, Slayton just a little bit more aware of what's going on, and Costa Bila is actually the one sent forward.
Not really going to catch anything, though. But, yeah, now they will eye up the Roche pit. Still feeling a little bit cautious. Ooh. They've already thrown down the Tombstone as well, though, so Infamous may be hard-pressed to get themselves into this pit, but since no one's actually hitting it, they are going to be free for now. Slayton does get hit up, but again, that Aeon Disc comes into play. He's going to be so much harder to bring down. Alone now makes the move, going in for the spear. They've locked down Gunnar. Lumiere needs the damage. They are trying to hit up onto him. And Gunnar going to get saved. I think he's going to be just fine with the BKB. Costable, meanwhile, into the fight. He may not have the wolf bite, but he's still dangerous, or maybe he's not. They're just going to absolutely isolate him. No one's here to help. Costable gets taken down. Meanwhile, over to the side, A is all alone. Can he survive till reinforcements arrive? It looks like the answer is yes, but now Infamous are just going to turn their attention to another fight. Looking to get onto Husky, taking the Undying out of the fight very slowly, but they will get it. In the meantime, Lumiere, they tried to save him. Not going to be able to do so. He gets taken down by the mine, but they are trading out incredibly well right now. They finished off Mu, who will quickly buy back. ET, at this point, it feels like this is turning into maybe 3 or 4 fights as these lineups are so split. Oscar, though, trying to make a move. He immediately gets hit up by the Abyssal Blade. They'll throw down the Tombstone onto him as well. Can they actually do this, though? Oscar should be able to Timber Chain himself, maybe not all the way out of the fight, but at least towards his teammates. As Lumiere buys back. TP's onto the outpost, and well, we're not going to have a fight, but meanwhile, in the base, yeah, somebody has to come back because those creep waves were getting up onto the tier 4s. However, Alone coming back means Lumiere is still on the front line to take Roshan.
Wait, watch the steal. Lumiere has to BKB this. He also needs to pick up absolutely everything.
Just grab it all while you can. Mu tries to jump in. Did he get anything? No, he did not. Gunner, I don't really think he grabbed anything either. Now these heroes have to try and get away. Mu dropping incredibly low. The wolf bite on him, though, is going to help him get away, and he just burrows out of the arena, so they're not going to be able to catch him. However, they've got Gunner on the other side. This would be a far more valuable kill. They'll take him down, and they actually still did get Mu. Lumiere.
Oh, no.
Did he just kill him with the trap? He might have, and now, oh, this is a problem. Husky, gonna get caught, gonna get finished. Another hero dead with buyback unavailable. What do they have left? Gunner's got one. He'll pop it. Z-Freak is now the only man on the 4-zoomer side holding on to his buyback. You're Infamous. Do you go? Is this your moment? Do they try to push all the way in? They've got the Aegis up on Lumiere. He's holding on to the cheese in his backpack as well, so this could very well be their moment, ET.
Yeah, it's a 3v5, 2 heroes without buyback. You still need to be very scared of really just the wolf bite on Costa Delay, but after BKB, it's still true that he can't really survive after the fact, but this is also a level 25 Death Prophet that A could really solely put pressure on these buildings, and Z-Freak is trying to make space in the meantime, but well, that's your Shapeshift forced out. They need to keep Lumiere away from those tier 4s, and well, they're trying. Z-Freak's going to try to throw as many blast offs really as possible here, but oh boy.
The air is starting to drop. This would be a great way to get the Aegis, but they're not going to be able to do it. Z-Freak dead. There's that buyback. Last one available at the moment. So they need to hold. Still a 3v5, though. Tier 4 starting to get hit. Lumiere is so unbelievably low. If Kostabli could get in onto him, that would be great, but he's not able to make the move just yet. Now they'll go. Looking for the first kill. They are able to get it, but the Ancient's been exposed. Running out of time, though. The Exorcism's going to come to an end, so they really can't just go straight in for the Ancient. They are actually still trying, though, but they need to focus their attention onto these heroes. They're so damn low, and okay. There we go. They will take the heroes down. Buyback unavailable. Backdoor protection came back in, though, so
the game's not over.
Yeah,
the
I
game's
guess.
not over. He tried to cut the mid wave. They have to take the wave in bottom. I think it'd actually be faster if Lumiere just kills the bottom tower and then pushes in. But the game's not over, and people are respawning on 4-zoomers. They probably just need to hide and keep that fountain in vulnerability as long as they can. And
who's gonna give it a go? There's the Epi. No, not really doing much. A doesn't really care about that. The Yule Scepter and the Glimmer should keep him safe. Meanwhile, Creep Wave's still not here yet. This is just a very strange ending. The 4-zoomers, they know how important this is. They're not willing to give up. They will make Infamous work, and, well, there's Lumiere to sort of do the work. Taking down Husky, that does mean he drops a second tombstone, but they are going to be able to clear it out. The Ancient will finally be exposed as the backdoor protection is removed, and Infamous will close it out. Very strange final couple of minutes there, but they get it, and if you're 4-zoomers, ET, you're very upset with yourselves. That game was theirs to take, and they blow it.
Well, and now it's over. But yeah, I really think 40 minutes into the game, that bottom high ground push, I mean, you can see win probability in itself. It was their game. They were so patient with the way that we saw, I want to say, Gunner take that top racks, only having the Black Dragon exposed, hitting that top racks, and then just Infamous being helpless because they're so afraid of the tombstone. And then one spear blows the entire game wide open. Honestly, it's crazy stuff. And Alone delivered when he needed to deliver, especially that Ag Shard pickup. It's just 4-zoomers, one bad push, and then the game resets to 0. And then after that point, Lumiere is just an absolute menace. Costa Bela getting picked off on the ramp, coming into the Radiant jungle. Them never having wards because there are 2 gems in the game, and they're never able to take that control, so they're always shooting in the dark. And then unfortunately, Moo's playing versus 3 Aeon discs, so you can't get that initiation that Alone's able to find. You play a much tighter rope, and I think that's where Four Zoomers, unfortunately, Moo's not able to capitalize. They're able to get too much farm on the infamous sideline heroes, and they really just take this one. They pull the rug out from Four Zoomers. That was their game. That's their victory. They worked so hard up until that point. It's gut-wrenching. Absolutely.
But that just goes to show, you know, you've got to play a complete game. You can get yourself a big lead, but if you're only playing well for the first 3/4 of a game, you leave the door open for the comeback, and it really was a comeback. You look at Infamous, these stat lines, 5 and 3 for Alone with 20 assists. That is impressive. Lumiere does hit double digits, but everyone else, they're still sort of on the negative end of that spectrum. So they had to fight, scratch, and claw their way back into it, ET, but they didn't give up, and eventually the patience, the persistence, even maybe the stubbornness down 2 lanes of Rax refusing to give in really does pay off for them.
Yeah, and, well, what do you do if you're Four Zoomers? Their idea wasn't bad. They whip out the Lycan at the end of... He didn't have a crazy stat line. He was really just kind of helping Costabile out for a while there. But now I think Four Zoomers, do you change up what almost gave you victory here? Do they look for something better? And man, Husky just looked indomitable. He looked unstoppable for so long. Those tombstones were such a big problem that Infamous couldn't deal with until they didn't have to. I am really just awestruck.
Yeah, we'll see what adjustments get made here by the Four Zoomers side, because, you know, when they were up big, we were talking about maybe their play forcing out some different bans from the Infamous side. Now, Four Zoomers are the ones who are going to have to maybe make that call. But we'll see what they choose to do. A gut-wrenching loss for the Four Zoomer side, but they're not out of things just yet. Down 1 game, they are going to look to fight their way back into it, but something's going to have to change. We shall see. We're just minutes away here from the Game 2 draft, so we will step aside for a moment. When we return, we'll find out. Will it be Infamous with a 2-0 sweep to advance to the next round, or can Four Zoomers push this to a full 3 games? We will be finding out in just a little bit.